This video is a recording of a live coaching call that I did with two of my agents. The topic is lead follow-up, and if you're looking to scale your real estate business from anywhere between 5 deals a year to 50 deals a year, this training will definitely help you. There's so many agents that talk about lead generation and just doing more and more and more in your business. And while I agree that you do need to fill your pipeline and keep filling it, it's more important, in my opinion, to follow up with your leads that you do have right now more consistently. Let me explain. If you're calling a for sale by owner, it takes an extremely long amount of time to build trust, especially if you're a complete stranger. Most people don't want to invite somebody in their home after 1 or 2 phone calls, and I found that I often have to call 5, 6, 7 times to build enough rapport and give enough value up front that that person wants to invite me into their home. Remember, a lot of people hate real estate agents, and honestly, I can't really blame them for that. So it's all about having good follow-up and showing that you're different. You're the agent that will follow through and do what you say and act ethically and honestly, and you'll be there when you need them. You do that, you earn that trust by having the right behavior up front. It's all about lead follow-up and consistency. Okay guys, the name of the game this week is lead follow-up. So there's this saying in sales that the fortune is in the follow-up. And I don't think I need to explain what that means. I think that's pretty simple, but it's a very powerful point. Think about it this way. How many people are going to make a purchase decision for something as big as a house off of one phone call? It's possible that they'll go out and see a house with you after one phone call if you're calling ponds or you're getting a Zillow call. But in terms of actually making the purchase, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've done it, but it's more common that you're going to have to follow up with the people that you've met along the way. As the lead source gets harder, more follow-up is required or more desirable. Suppose you're trying to sign a listing, a for sale by owner or an expired. It's unlikely that on that first phone call, you're gonna set the appointment to get in the door to have the listing appointment. It happens sometimes, but what I found is a lot of times when people do set an appointment on that first call, they have a higher chance of getting ghosted than if it ends up being somebody they follow up with 2, 3, 4, 5 times to then set the appointment. Now, I'm not saying wait until call 2, 3, 4, 5 to set an appointment. If you can set it on the first call, then definitely do. But the point is that the more you follow up with somebody in any capacity, the more committed they're going to be to working with you, because they're going to see more value in working with you. They're going to see that you're a consistent, serious business person, not just some fly-by-night realtor. Make sense? Setting the stage. I'm going to give you 2 examples, 2 stats that I definitely won't get right, but one is that 60 or 70% of realtors who call expireds only call 1 time, and then like 30% only call 2 times. It drops off significantly. And so, just stop and think about your own sales business. How many times do you make, 100 dials, couple hundred dials, and how many people are you connecting with or not connecting with? And consider that it might be worth re-hitting a list, even if you've only, what's a common number, Jaden? So maybe you'll have 2 appointments out of 150 dials or 200 dials. What's been common for you lately?
Dude, I haven't been able to set any appointments, and I just started tracking my metrics.
So that's okay. How many conversations do you have from 150?
So I made 200 calls on November 21st. Out of that, 10 conversations. Out of that, 3 leads generated. So that day it took around 66 calls in order to get someone that said they wanted to sell.
Yeah, huge. So then consider this. That list of 200 that you called in 10 conversations, the obvious points are that calling the 3 that are leads not only makes sense, but it's, you'd be really dumb not to, right? And you know that, so I'm not going to try not blowing you guys on that point. But then the other 10 conversations you had, we're going up the pipeline a little bit more. They're likely to become appointments at some point because they actually picked up the phone and had a conversation with you. I'm hoping that's something that you guys are already considering. But then the other 185, whatever that number would be, the remainder are still worth calling, especially if you're leaving voicemails. And I think even if the number pops up, because there's still viable leads, you just didn't catch them on the very first ring. So consider when you're dialing, are you hitting the same list a couple times, or is it fresh data every time? What's been your practice so far?
So, on the expired list, I think there's 1,300 contacts in total. So I'm just going to keep pumping through that list consistently day after day, and I'll get back to people that didn't answer the first time. Like I'm gonna keep calling the list.
Okay.
And essentially the people that I've had a conversation with, I'm gonna then add them into FUB for lead follow-up.
Perfect.
And I'm just gonna take them off the list.
Okay. That was going to be my next question is, are you adding the people that you did talk to? Have you been doing that? Have you been consistent with that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
After that listing meeting with David, a lot of agents are like jumping in here, dialing through expireds. So I had to call some of them and be like, hey, don't leave like your call notes like on Mojo, because I'm not hungry enough to want to take your lead. But if you're not going to put it in Follow Boss, like someone could just go in here and be like, all right, they want to sell next year. Let me call them right now.
I mean, no one owns a lead. That's an important thing to remember. And when we're calling a common lead source, that could happen. And at the end of the day, it's going to be about who makes the best impression. So I'm going to drive the point home that, let's say 2 broker agents are calling, and one of them touches base every single week for 6 weeks and is sending items of value and market updates and articles about what's going on with interest rates and keeping them informed. And one person calls once week 1 and once week 7, right? And the other agent's been calling weeks 1 through 6, and they sign them or they have an appointment week 6. Well, that agent who calls week 7, they might be butthurt, but they just didn't do their job as well. So I think it's fair to be thinking competitively in terms of, being the best agent and standing out. But to your point, don't, go poaching people that are, if they're being stupid and kind of leaving their breadcrumbs, then don't follow them, right? Don't take their lead.
I'm just going to plug that list. And if someone forgot to take them off the list, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Like that's...
Yeah, exactly. And if you're using a multi-line dialer, then, I think that's kind of the common thing is you just like hit go and you're not looking at each individual lead before you call.
Yeah.
It's a waste of time.
100%.
If this content's helpful, go to Skool.com and search for Reinvest Real Estate and join our free community. It's packed with resources just like this. Free video trainings, templates, checklists, and other tools that'll help you grow your real estate sales business.
Lou, I got a question.
Yep.
So to keep this short, leaving a voicemail or no voicemail. And I guess if you call a lead and they don't pick up, but for whatever reason, they listen to your voicemail and maybe don't call you back because they're shy, or maybe you get those agents that click like don't want to talk to an agent right now, but they respond to texts. Mm-hmm. Would you say leaving a voicemail beneficial for every single call you make?
I mean, I've heard this debated both directions. I've heard arguments on both sides, and I don't have data to support one or the other. My thinking is that if it's a really high value lead, like an expired, somebody who has raised their hand and said, I will sell my house at some point, and I think it's probably worth the couple seconds to leave the voicemail. If we were calling random like internet leads for somebody who clicked on a blog article about 5 ways to improve your curb appeal, I'm not leaving a voicemail because that's not a very high value lead. Same would go like if it's a Zillow pond, I think those are probably worth leaving a voicemail for. Long way of saying, I think the leads we have are high value enough that it's probably worth leaving a voicemail. I'll ask though, is there like an auto voicemail drop feature within Mojo? That's what I was gonna say. So I think most of those dialers have that, so just hit that button and then just keep fucking rolling. What other thoughts on lead follow-up here? So we've got obviously calling more. Are you guys doing any emails for lead follow-up, or is it strictly phone call?
Right now it's 100 leads a day calling. Haven't done it this week and I'm on vacation, but 100 calls a day. Off the leads, I try to get the email and then immediately putting them in the fellow.
Good.
So fellow is gonna like continue to touch them. So that will be like the email marketing. And then my help would be like that lead, that the $2.5 million lead, like what do I do next? Like I've offered to go there with you twice. No replies twice.
Yep.
So it's like, I mean, you can't just let them die. Like I feel like
you keep following up along the same point. So I'll answer your question about that lead with my experience with signing my first $1 million listing. It was a FSBO and an expired, a property in Avon that, had been overpriced, poorly marketed, and not really price dropped. The seller was stubborn. He was hard to get through to. I, called like 5 times and finally got through to him. And then he ghosted. And I must have followed up another 10 times. I don't remember the exact, but I believe it was about 10 times. And I remember getting to a point where I'm like, fuck it, like this isn't working. I'm just gonna give up on this lead, or let me throw a Hail Mary. So I'd gone to the property and it was all overgrown. Grass is high. And I shot him a picture, I emailed him a picture, and a very short email is just like, hey man, just wanted to let you know what your property's looking like right now. If you're planning on selling this for anywhere near $1 million, like you've got to get this cleaned up. I used to manage this stuff for 30 stores, throughout the Northeast. If you're interested in selling your home and, having me help take care of some of this stuff, let me know. And I got a call. I also wrote a handwritten note and I left it with, kind of the similar type of information on the front door. Come to find out, he'd moved out. He was in Russia. Then when he came back for a little bit, we met and I signed the listing purely just through the, hey, I'm going to property manage this thing for you. You're moving back to Russia. Like, how else are you going to do this? What other agent's going to work this hard type of thing? And so that was for him, that was his motivation, was he needed somebody who was going to actually keep the property in a presentable manner and was going to work their ass off to sell it. Now you've got an out-of-state seller, so you may have a similar type of situation. And it may become fair game at some point to drive by the property, snap a picture, and just say something like, hey, we're getting into wintertime. Sometimes properties get kind of funky if they didn't get like a good fall cleanup. Something like talking about winterizing the property could be another good item of value. Something that to the effect of, hey, I know you're out of town. I'm thinking about this for all my clients who have homes that they don't live in, all my vacationers. I'm sending out this reminder to winterize your property so you don't have frozen pipes. I just want to ask, is this something that's on your radar? Or would a referral to a professional who could take care of this be helpful? So thinking about those types of things, like put yourself in their shoes, like what do they need? They need to sell the property, maybe eventually, but they might be wealthy as hell. They don't really care about the holding costs. So sometimes people will kind of get in with that. But bigger picture, I'd be thinking about like, what does it take to have a property that you aren't in long term?
Yeah. And it's funny, I mean, the call with her is recorded, $2.5 million lead. And I was like, what's the most important thing for you when it comes to hiring an agent? And she was like, we don't need anyone to do anything special. We just need you to help us make a smart decision, give us feedback if something needs to be changed, be honest about it, communicate with us, and just be transparent about the transaction. And that's it.
Perfect. So that's great. So you know the recipe. And so what does a person that is honest and transparent and gives good feedback and gives them good guidance, what do? They're consistent. They follow up regularly. They look to see where they can provide value. They listen to the customer's needs, right? So it's all the stuff we're talking about. And that ends up being the formula most of the time. Another thing to consider is that they may not have gotten your previous emails. And so it's fair game to send the same email again or something similar or whatever. So maybe a week goes by since you sent an email and you hit reply to it, and make sure that the subject line says whatever the last thing was. And just a one-liner like, hey Sherry, just want to check back on this, whatever your follow-up message is, but just a one-liner as a reply, because a lot of people will read an email that has reply in the subject line.
Yeah.
Also possible that your emails are going to promotions and not to the primary inbox. How do you get around that? Honestly, I don't really know, but I know that's happening with my blast emails that are promotions for Reinvest. So what do? Just send more fucking emails. Like there's really nothing else I can do except for send 13 emails, or no, I think I'm up to like 17 emails in 20 days. Like that's it. It's just kind of as a volume game at that point, because I'm just trying to get people to an event. I don't have a high item of value, which is let me help you with your property that you're not at. That's about as high value as it gets, I think, for a homeowner.
Okay. I'm with it.
Cool. Jordan, do you have any leads in mind? Actually, let's go there. Do you have any leads in particular that you were talking to that went cold, or people that you want to move along more? They could be on the sell side or the buy side. I'm thinking it's probably you've got a bunch of buyers that you've been picking up from Zillows, or anybody that you're not actively out with right now.
I think a lot of my buyers, and maybe your experience can speak to this, a lot of my buyers right now, like I haven't really been doing much the past couple of days. One, because I've had issues with my leads, my real-time touring leads, as a quick side note, just haven't been working.
So new leads you don't have coming in, it sounds like, but you have.
Correct.
prior leads.
Yeah, I would say the two big ones for me would be Brenda and Rob, the one that we went on the listing appointment with. Obviously, we have to find them a property, but I think staying in touch with them is going to be important, especially because they're going to be a sell and a buy combo, which is pretty like probably 1.2, 1.3 between the two of those. And then there's a military couple that I'm working with.
So, okay, so some things you could do with either or both of them. The couple we sent down with, an easy touch point afterwards. Hey, how was Thanksgiving? I forget if they said they were hosting. So that could be a good touch point for her. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know if you're that personal. Doesn't really matter. Another thing you could do with either client is just go back through expired listings and don't do the phone calls, but look at expired properties that are similar to what they were interested in before, and pull a link from MLS and send it to them and say, hey, you know, I've been looking for you. I haven't forgotten about you in your search. In fact, I get alerts every single day from MLS when something that could meet your criteria pops up. Unfortunately, I haven't seen anything in the last 2 weeks. That's why you haven't heard from me. However, I wanted to let you know that I went into MLS and I looked at some expired listings. Here are a couple that might work for you. What do you think? You know, if you like any of these, I can call the seller. I can reach out to them and see if they might be interested in having you come through for a showing. That's super high value, right? Because like, what do they want? I just want properties. Even without doing that level of work, take another step back. If you're looking for properties for people and they have a specific search and you've got concierge mode set up and you're like, reject, reject, not sending, not sending, it's fair game to text your people once a week or every 10 days or so. Hey, just want to let you know, I'm going through your property search, multiple times per week. About 15 homes are coming up every single week, but I keep throwing them out because they either don't have the white shaker cabinets you're looking for, or they're not an open concept, or whatever reason why you're throwing out most of the properties. Just want to let you know I didn't forget about you. That's great follow-up. And it doesn't require any more work. I mean, the work is in setting up the search and going through it and reviewing. So all you're doing is you're telling them the results are, hey, I'm looking for you and I'm not finding anything. It doesn't make you look bad. Like there just aren't any properties out there that match what they're looking for. But you're doing your job. Like you can't create the listing. I mean, okay, you can go out and look for similar properties. We all know you can lead generate, right? But you're doing your job, which is the due diligence of looking for them. And so you let them know that you're doing your part and you're thinking of them.
I feel like I know the lead follow process for buyers a lot more than sellers because I haven't worked sellers.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jordan, another one that works for me too. If I'm like calling upon lead or like a buyer I haven't talked to in a while, I'll just call them up. I'll look at the MLS to see how many listings have gone live in the last 7 days. And I'll just be like, Jordan, I see like 1,500 listings came to the market this week. Remind me, what were you looking for again? You came to mind.
That works good for a cold lead, somebody that you haven't been out with in 6 months, or if you're calling the pond. Absolutely. It's great.
Okay.
And then while they're on the phone with you, type it in the criteria. Mm-hmm. I've done that with people, with leads, like buyers, just like I'm looking for 3 bedrooms. I'll go on there, type in 3. It'll be like around Hartford. Okay, boom, Hartford County. I'll be like, all right, I got 40 matches here. Let me send some to you and let's go see some houses.
Cool. Yeah, I like that.
Perfect. Because going out and seeing houses, that's fun to most people and it's non-committal. And I mean, I bet there are people out there that like just don't know what the next step is, which sounds crazy to us, but they don't know. You can contact any agent and they'll show you houses.
They really don't know.
It's not like there's a building. It's not like there's like a Toyota dealership or a CarMax for houses that okay, yeah, brokerages have offices, but nobody fucking does that. No one's walking in being like, hey, can somebody here show me a house? Okay, so now let's think about leads that aren't really totally hot top of mind for you, Jordan. One of my favorite things to do with buyers who are looking for something specific-ish is try to push the boundaries a little bit on what they're looking for, but not going too far out of bounds. If you go too far out of bounds, it's like, oh, this guy doesn't care about what I really want. He's just trying to show me anything that works. Come up with 2 examples of how I do this. Number 1, you've got somebody who's looking in West Hartford and Glastonbury for single bedroom home, 3 to 4 square feet. Or 3 to 4 bedrooms. They don't have kids. They need to be close-ish to Hartford. And they want like a really nice fancy kitchen, right? Can you call that person and call them with example listings in other towns that meet that bill that are available right now? Hey, have you guys ever considered Southington? Like pick whatever town, right? Southington, Avon, Canton, doesn't matter. how far is too far for you? Like, would you drive 25 minutes? Because I found this property right in the Canton Ave online that could work for you guys. Things like that help. All you're trying to do is show, hey, I'm thinking about you. I know your housing situation is important to you. It's important to me too. So that's the person that cares a lot about what the home looks like, and they gave you a couple towns, and you're trying to see maybe they'd go to other towns. Now I'll give you the inverse of that. Maybe you've got somebody who's like, I want to be in the Farmington Valley and I want something that's really nice and updated, 3 or 4 bedrooms, 2,500 square feet plus. And you know that they absolutely want to be in one of those 4 Farmington Valley towns because of whatever reasons they gave you: schools, access to hospital, their work, family, whatever the case is. Family's the big one, right? Like, you're not moving the grandparents. So they want to be within 15 minutes of the grandparents. Like, those towns are pretty much set. Maybe you get to 20 minutes out. And they said they want something that's really like nice and updated and sexy and all that stuff. One of my favorite things to do is try to push that limit a little bit on what they would accept as something that they want to move into and make it about value. So I just helped an agent with this the other day. They've got a client who's looking in Canton and they're looking up to $400K for 3-4 bedroom place. They want something that's totally updated. And they've been out and they've been looking and they can't find anything. Right, you're shaking your head because it just doesn't fucking exist. So what I had him do in this case, and it's his friend, which actually makes it harder. So what I had him do in this case was look up all sales in Canton that were similar square footage, right number of bedrooms, right, that had the right base, and pull just a quick CMA report and show him, hey, the average sale price here is actually $460,000. And you've got some homes that are in the 400s, like the low 400s, and you've got some that are in the low 500s. And they average out to that 460, 470. I'm making up the numbers, but this is probably roughly accurate for the market. What it looks like is, one way or another, to get the house you want, you're gonna have to spend $70,000 more, or more than that. Let me explain. You could buy a house for $400 to $420 that's in okay condition, like it's a time capsule house. It's not up to date right now, and maybe it needs a kitchen and a bathroom and some paint, and you could put 50 grand into it and make it your own. And that 420 house that you put 50K into it is now worth low 5s. Or you could get something that's totally updated, and those are selling in the low 5s. That's the turnkey option. It's right now. And think of it like you're paying for the convenience of not having to go through a renovation, which I know some people don't like. But the way I see it is, you really have 2 options. Option A is you buy something that's a little bit cheaper, below market, and you have a contractor do some work, and you get exactly what you want and you add some value to it. And option B is that you find the house that's in right moving condition right now, understanding that that's going to be something in the low 500s. But just know that to get the property you want, here it is, right? To get the property that you really want, you're going to end up spending $75,000 or $100,000 more than what you're expecting. And that's just the reality where the market is right now. And we have this data to fall back on. And bonus points if you've got a couple of the listings on the low end and the high end pulled up and you flip through it with them. So that's kind of like doing a listing appointment in reverse a little bit. You're pulling up all the recent sales, right? And then you're going through and you're clicking through the listings and showing them what they can get essentially for a certain price and what the condition is, and you're talking about that. So all you're doing is you're educating them on the market. And there's a little bit of wordsmithing in there, sure, but at the base, what am I doing? I'm not like a snake charmer. I'm not like making shit up. I'm pulling actual listings that sold on the MLS and reviewing the data with them and just showing them, hey, this is where the market is. Here's the reality. And I know you started looking at homes on Zillow 2 years ago. You're not going to get those prices now.
Yeah, you're spot on. It's 556. That's why I was shaking my head, because I mean, I went through that with a client. Dude, you're not going to find turnkey in Canton for under 4. When you show them the data, they're just like, all right, he's not bullshit.
And so after that, likely one of 2 things is going to happen. I mean, people are people, so any number of things could happen, right? They can just smack you in the face and walk away. But one of 2 things is probably going to happen. They're either going to have that, like, come to Jesus, realization and say, okay, I get it. You're right. We're going to have to change our search parameters. And then you probably get to whatever the real objection is below the surface. And I'll come back to that. So option 1 is they're like, yeah, you're right. We're going to have to change. Or option 2 is they say, you know what, that's just too much. We're just not ready, willing and able. We can't do that right now. You say, totally understand. So it sounds like it may make sense for us to pause your search just for the time being and pick this up at a time when, you're more comfortable going in this range, or, hey, totally understand that may not be where you want to go right now. Is there another market you're interested in that may be a little bit more affordable that we should be looking at instead of Canton in the 550 range? And so you can pivot one way or another. And if it's a client that's kind of been a pain in the ass because and every time they send you property, you're like, oh, they're not going to pay what this thing is worth, blah, 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 blah. Well, just find a way to sort that out. Like, you're not going to sell everybody a house, and you shouldn't necessarily try to. But if you show them the data, and they'll either get to yeah, I get it, and I'm more likely to act in a way that's going to get me a house, or maybe they take themselves out of the game altogether. Guess what? You win either way, because you just showing them houses and them bidding low isn't helping anybody. It's costing you a lot of money.
So Lou, it sounds like if you got more education, you'd be ready to make a decision.
Exactly. It sounds like if somebody was able to show you what's going on in the market with actual data right now and actual hard facts, you would be more comfortable making a decision. Is that right? What else you guys got? What are questions? What are the thoughts?
I just want to focus on sellers.
Cool.
This year, I put 41,000 miles on my brand new car.
Wow.
Working with buyers, and I don't want to do it anymore. I can't.
I recommend doing both because sellers net take less time to work. It's 10, 15 hours from, first appointment to closing, where buyers are typically 2, maybe 3 times that depending on the buyer, but you're more likely to get paid from a buyer more quickly than a seller. Because think about James and how long that's going to take for him to come to market. And the other couple that we met with that, in Jordan, we're in a similar situation with your guys, because it can be harder to get, quote unquote, get a seller to move. There are things that are more fixed, like, oh, okay, we're going to move when the school year ends, when my daughter goes off to college. You're not going to change the calendar. Maybe you can play with that a little bit, but you're not going to get that person to sell in January. And you shouldn't try.
I also feel that there's you're almost dealing with the opposite emotion when you're dealing with sellers. You're kind of pulling something from them, whereas buyers, you're kind of giving them something. I feel like selling to buyers is probably a little easier.
But it could also be really fun. It can be more exciting. I remember we talked a couple months ago about buyers in general, and hey, it's easy to have a bad situation or two with a buyer, kind of apply it to all buyers, and just be mindful not to do that. I know I've done that at times. You could also have the situation like Jordan had, where you get a great client, you go out with them 2-3 times, write an offer, boom, get it accepted, high five, and you're the hero. Inspections go easily. You know what I mean? So you could also have those deals too, and they do all average out.
Yeah. I mean, no, it makes sense. I got a Zillow call. We saw the property. They wrote a cash offer immediately. That would have been the quickest paycheck of the century. I mean, Our offer was so far off, but still, it was
how exciting is that though too? Don't even make it just about the payday, but make it about the action. I met a stranger, showed him a really nice house. They wrote a cash offer, right? That's just fun too. So, we can kind of, maybe there's some mental gymnastics to consider there too.
Maybe I want a certain amount of listings signed under my belt, and then I'm just gonna go buyer. Have my 12 listings signed for the year.
Yep.
Know when they're gonna be signed, and then just go buyer heavy after I get my listings signed.
Yeah. To do it consistently, a CRM, a deal pipeline tracker, a calendar, a task list, all that stuff is necessary. If you want to show up better for your friends and family and show you care about them more, and you were always missing birthdays or something like that, what do? You take an hour one day and go on Facebook and look up everybody's birthday and put them in your reminders app and set a yearly reminder that goes off. And if you're buying somebody a gift, you make a reminder a week or two beforehand for it. Now, does that make you a bad person that you're not remembering their birthday? No, it doesn't. You care about them. So you're creating a system for it. And so that's why I'm really big on digital to-do lists, and why I have that really simple Apple Notes format that I recommend for people, or use whatever system you want. And or, I'll have my digital to-do list that I print and have next to me, and then I'll handwrite on there throughout the day. That way I'm not going back into my phone or computer and getting distracted. And so it's these systems that help keep you on the ball and help you not forget to do the follow-up thing when you talk to the person and they, the friend that calls you randomly and, hey, not anything urgent, but my mom's thinking about selling her house sometime next year, and it'd be great if you can, right? You can't forget that though.
It just reminds me, like, that's probably other people could potentially struggle with that when it comes to a salesperson calling them.
Yes.
Like, we're disrupting their day. They're probably in the middle of a work day or with their kids or doing hot. They're not expecting us to call them at all. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how good you're on the phone. You're gonna piss them off to start the call. Like, you're
Most likely you're interrupting them. So, I mean, there are a million strategies on the phone to kind of like whatever, get around that. But yeah, I mean, you're not in their calendar for the day, so you are an interruption, absolutely. The longer you're in this business, the more you'll start to notice things about marketing and advertising and sales that I think will help you. So start paying attention more, right? To like the ads on Instagram and what works, what stops the scroll.
yeah. This makes me want to work, but I'm on vacation.
Yeah, I knew this would be a good call. That got me a little bit fired up too, which is good at 3 o'clock the day before Thanksgiving.
Makes me want to at least call like 10 people.
Then do it. If you want to, if you're feeling like it, call or text 10 people. Hey man, what's up? It's crazy. I just got off this phone call and you came to mind, so just give me a call really quickly. How's it going? How's Thanksgiving? You know, or what do you do for Thanksgiving? You can do that with a lead that you haven't met in person yet. If you've talked to seller lead 2, 3, 4 times, like that's not weird.
Oh yeah.
They'll remember you. Anything else? Questions, closing thoughts?
Super helpful. I think that last line just kind of summarizes it all. Just do it.
All right, guys. I'm gonna hop unless you guys have anything else. Jordan, you and I were gonna do something related to systems today and lead magnets. All right, you guys. Well, have an awesome Thanksgiving. Thanks for hanging with me.
Yeah.
Had fun. Hope you did too.
All right. Take care, guys.
Later. If this video was helpful, join our free community on Skool.com, search for Reinvest Real Estate, and you will get tons of value and information both from the community who contributes actively and helps solve real estate agents' problems, and from other free trainings and resources that we have available for you. See you there.